Okay, Trish, so let's have a little walk around your garden.
Okay, so this is my beautiful rosemary, and it was planted by my parents around about 30 years ago, I think, from memory. For me, it's the plant of remembrance, as well as being a really powerful detoxifier. And this flower here, last year it actually stayed in place for Anzac Day. It's normally not flowering that long in the garden.
No.
So we actually took it down to Longreef and made a very special flower essence called Remembrance on Anzac Day at the setting of the sun. So we went and did the whole ode, but at the going down of the sun. And it was very, very special. I've got goosebumpy just saying that now.
And it's a huge, massive plant. I'm not that
it's taller than me.
Yep.
I'm 5'4", guys. This, seriously, it may be up to my knees there. So we'd say it's a good couple of metres.
And it's not so much that bigger is better, everybody. It's just that this has such a huge presence.
If you zoom in on the base, you'll see just how beautiful and twisted and gnarled that wood is.
It is just such a beautiful, beautiful entwined presence, isn't it?
It is.
Really, it reminds me of family trees. You know, all those
It does.
the way that I know that's what family trees
Well, actually,
are.
speaking of family trees, there is a little story to say about my friend over here, the mango. As I said, unfortunately, we haven't got any mangoes on here this time. But this tree, it was planted when I was about, probably 15.
Right.
And it was grown from a seed that was grown from a plant that was grown from a seed.
Oh, no, I love those stories.
And the original tree came from the Wollumbar, from my great aunt and uncles and my grandmother's property. So this is technically my family tree.
Well, it is, isn't it? Yeah.
And it's mangoes, and mango's doctrine of signature is all about cutting cords. So it's perfect for cutting cords with family. So.
And I did notice some little nasturtiums backing through there.
Nasturtiums sitting over there. At the moment, the garden's about to get rebuilt. All the garden bed materials there. So that's the project. Once everything's settled, like cicadas, spiders, and all those. Yes. So about another month's time, all of that will get ripped out. But the nasturtiums are there to put the nitrogen back in the soil.
Absolutely.
So, and they look pretty too.
We all love nasturtiums.
Yeah, we really love nasturtiums.
And so walking around, I just love this garden. We are
all firewood, by the way. These are all the
go.
old beautiful wattles and a whole heap of other branches. We had a really big clean-up, and all of this is going to get chopped up. Now it'll be used for fires over winter, so nothing goes to waste in the garden.
Absolutely.
And we've got the honeysuckle. Just taken over the pepper tree now, because the pepper tree got borers in it, sadly. So the honeysuckle's there for the summer, and we'll work out what we'll do with honeysuckle later. But honeysuckle is such a beautiful energy for heart chakra and for love.
Absolutely.
One of my favourites.
You sound like me, Trish. My favourite flower.
This tree represents so much. This is actually a macadamia tree.
Yeah.
Now, there is a secondary one growing up to replace it at the back.
Okay. Oh, yes.
Yep. That one there is about 10 years old now. It grew from a seed of this tree. So everything in the garden is self-seeding. There's a wonderful synergy and a turning of cycles.
Absolutely.
And for those who haven't seen macadamia
flowers,
I
was about to say, could you point those out for me? Because
I just won't walk into the spider's web. And I want to make sure the cockatoos don't drop anything on me either.
And here's some macadamia as well. We've got some of the actual, and the flowers.
Look at the flowers.
I know, these are something
to think that...
I'm just going to stretch over Mr. Spider there, so hopefully, could you just put your hand to indicate there, Trish, to make sure...
Oh, but I'll bring it in to you.
There we go.
It's right there.
There we go.
So from that, we get the macadamia nuts. Now, macadamia is the essence I use is called Journey of the Soul.
Yep.
And that is also about travelling from point A to point B. So many of the essences in Mermaids Garden range have all come from flowers that have been green grown on my my little piece of land.
And it's just amazing how you've done this, because I hear from a lot of people, and myself included, because I'm obviously in a temporary situation myself for a few years, and this is your forever garden, but it's easy to come up with heaps and heaps of excuses as to why we can't, but what we need to do is adapt, like whether it's our forever garden or our gypsy garden, or we've got climate considerations to look at. It's just about adapting and looking at what's growing in the area.
Yeah.
I think.
Well, actually, there's a good example over there, Sherry, because there's one of the flowers that's travelled around with me, and it's still going. And it's lived on balconies. It's been by the sea.
Oh,
All sorts of things. And this is my twin heart roses. Now,
okay.
it died right out
Yes.
about 12 months ago, which is okay. This is probably about 30, 35 years old. However, it's just started to shoot again from the base with new roses. Now, I don't know what that's going to be.
Yep.
It's a bit below the graft. It could be anything.
Yeah.
But that is just one of the most divine plants, and it always had beautiful scented roses on it. So that has travelled around. All of these here, little violets, they grew from little tiny offerings from the birds once again.
Yes, I live not far from Trish, not on the plateau, but up in the forest area.
A couple of hills away.
A couple of hills away in what they call the forest area of Sydney. And they seem to be abundant everywhere this year, more so than others. So is there anything about the violets
I call that my sanctuary flower.
Yeah, there you go.
And that's one of the ones we actually photographed for the Ancient Wisdom deck of cards.
Yes.
And it has a little duck at the centre of it. I had an argument with that flower because it kept saying, take my petals off. And I'm going, I can't take your petals off. That's just not right. And I argued with the flower for 5 minutes.
Yes.
And I finally took its petals off and photographed it. And there was actually this beautiful little duckling in the centre, hence its name Sanctuary.
Yep.
And it's all about finding your own personal sanctuary in a time when everything's chaotic and too busy around you. So, yeah, these guys grow prolifically, and they've flowered until about 2 weeks ago. So for them to be in such a long season this year says to me that we all need a bit of sanctuary, and that was saying to me I need to take time out. So I'm taking my cues from my garden always. The fact that I've had Journey of the Soul constantly in flower this year and it hasn't stopped is saying that, you know, I need to remain on that nice balanced point A to point B journey of my life. The sanctuary flowers, it's now saying, now that it's finished flowering for me, it's saying, okay, I've learnt that lesson of staying in my little sanctuary when I need to. I took time off Facebook over Christmas and away from everything. I just told everyone, sorry, talk to the hand, I'm not around.
Yeah.
And that's something I'll be doing this year. I'm having weekends, so which will come as a shock to a few people.
But in saying that, I know people ask me all the time, if a plant dies, if it's a beloved plant that you've put into the garden and that's it, it's gone, it's dead, it's never coming back, can you share with us what you feel about that, and maybe some advice you can give people about what some reflection on that?
Okay, what I've done with the plants that have died, if there've been something like, for example, once this is flowered, I'll actually take this wood and I'll turn it into an object that I can use. I might make a wand out of it, or I might make something else out of it. I'm not sure. I might just make something I can put in a vase. But I'll honour it in some way. Sometimes you can't do that because they're not woody stems. So you might choose to put them back into the garden, but they all are part of the cycle. So if something dies, it means something's going to be replacing it. And so you need to consider that aspect, that when something's gone from your life, it does the full cycle. It comes back in another form. So
Oh, that is perfect way.
I work very much with the Wheel of the Year, and in fact, when I was creating the cards, I did the same thing. I haven't honoured any other process but the seasons and the wheel. And it's the first time I've ever done that with a project, and I come from a background that's corporate, where everything's done to timelines, to critical path schedules, to budgets. You know, everything's got a little tick. I've thrown that out the window for this project, and it may have taken 7 years, but it feels right.
That you've worked in that sort of cycle. So it's not, and also to work more in those sort of cycles and accept that even if it is a perennial, even if it's a plant that's supposed to last 50 years, if it dies in your hands, I think that, you know, things do die. They're not forever, and if it happens during the time that you've got it, it's not a bad omen. It's just it's just you are part of that cycle for that time.
That's what, it was there for a reason, and then it's moved.
And also, Trish, if you could let us know where you find your plants from as well. Like, I know that there's lots of different ways, but do you purchase them? How do you feel about purchasing?
I try to get my plants from markets if I'm buying a new plant. I also rescue plants. So it's a bit like people do pet rescue.
Yep.
Or I'll go past Bunnings and say, oh, you poor little thing, come home with me, and I feed it up and it's fine. Quite often do that with veggies actually. And I'm not just singling out Bunnings, by the way, there are other places, nurseries too. But that's what I do. I'll actually rescue plants. I was really lucky that my parents both grew up on the land, particularly my dad. He created a garden here when we got here. And there wasn't much here when we got here. In fact, the stereo in the corner is something that he planted.
And sorry, was that when you first felt like you were connected with gardening? Yeah, that's where you started?
Absolutely. Yep. I got ridiculed at 7 at school because I believed in fairies at the bottom of the garden. And my best friend's mother did not, and she had it around school probably the next day it was actually, or maybe 2 days later. And I shut down everything at that point. I didn't want to talk about it, and it took me 30 odd years before I started to reconnect in this way. So
okay, and so it's amazing. This is the garden as well. Yeah, wow.
You know, I've laid down on the grass and watched the clouds. I've planted things here. Yeah, and like I said, so many things have been planted by my parents. But I think my favourite.
Yes.
This tree.
Yeah.
This tree. This is actually where the rock is below me right now that I was talking about. So there's only a tiny little bit that's exposed, which is what I'm standing on. And there's a whole mass of bottle brush roots in between here at the moment. So, this tree is actually growing on this rock, but it's also tapped into one of the springs from this beautiful plateau that we call home. And the tree was planted, let me think, when I was 15, it would have been about 14, 15, so we could say about 37 years ago. So, and it's just one of the most ancient and beautiful trees. It's twisted, it's gnarled, it provides shelter. It should have only been 6 foot tall. It's now 35. But its energy is that the family. So this is my earth tree, and this is the tree when I'm doing any sort of ritual. Yep. I will actually, if I'm doing a crystal grid, for example, I sit here because I've got my white rock underneath, and I can grid it all out, and I can sit here and I have a candle there for fire. I have my air coming up from the valley. I have my water behind me, but I have my earth in the form of my beautiful big bottle brush tree. And bottle brush is all about clearing energies away. If you think of what a bottle brush does in a bottle, it cleanses the bottle, it takes all the crap out of your life. So to have a bottle brush growing so beautifully in the garden, it's amazing. It's really, really special. So when I do finally take these roots off here, and it's going to be quite a process to do, I'll do it very carefully. They've been exposed now for probably 18 months. And that was the recommendation, to let them be exposed so they can dry out. They will actually become wands and things, so they're going to carry some pretty powerful energy, and a lot of them are crisscrossing and doing some amazing things. So that, my friends, is pretty much my garden.
Thank you so much, Trish.
One quick one.
Yeah?
One quick one. I forgot about Elsie.
Oh, Elsie. Oh, yes.
Can't forget Elsie.
We've got
Sherilyn's actually taking a piece of Elsie home.
I don't have Hoya. Here we go. Look at
this. It's actually decided to grow on its own. So Sherilyn's going to take a piece of Elsie home. Now, Elsie is named after my great aunt, and she is just the most beautiful plant, and she is about 40 years old. She was grown from a tiny little cutting, much smaller than what I'm giving to Sherilyn, and she carries the beautiful energy of my family as well. So
I am so honoured. Elsie will be treasured in my gypsy garden. Well, thank you so much, Trish, for your the little trip around your garden today. I've had so much fun, and I'm sure everybody else has. And we'll have you have a little chat with everybody, because I'm sure there'll be 1,000 questions. I still have some more.
Answer the questions. There's so many plants I haven't shown you, but we're limited by time. So
we might do part 2. I'm sure that everyone would love that. Okay, so thank you so much, Trish.
Thank you.
Bye.
Much love and blessings.